Thank you. When I left home yesterday morning, I posted a picture of a Bashan, and I was trying to get a selfie because she just got groomed and she looked really pretty, but she kept licking my face. So I just put that one up, and one of our cohorts in the beef side posted, "Watch out, those CDC people are going to say something about dog germs and all this other stuff." So it was really funny because she knew exactly what was going to be going on here, and the group of talent that would be pulled together. Thank you. Yes, my husband and I are cattle feeders in northeast Nebraska. We have a feedlot where we buy cattle that weigh anywhere from 600 to 800 pounds, and we finish them to roughly 1,400 to 1,500 pounds. That has changed since Steve's grandfather, who was on this farm in 1914, really, they were married about this time of year, and according to the way the land transfers went, the farm was bought by Steve's great-grandfather, who came here from Germany, started a farm, and then as the sons got married, this was very common, he would buy farms for those boys, and so this farm transferred from the great-grandfather to Steve's grandfather. He raised 13 children, including Steve's dad, on that farm, and it happened to be empty. Two of the boys never married, and the farm, they were living in town, one had passed away, and we were going to be getting married. The uncle went to Steve, they were very close, and said, "Would you and Joan consider living here?" And so that's how we ended up on the farm. It was an opportunity that unfolded literally right into our lap. And so we have been here, yes, for 37 years. This is a picture of our feedlot. Yes, the cattle have a lot of room. And even across the industries of agriculture, we don't always know the story of one another. I volunteer for a group called Common Ground, and at a conference I did a selfie and kind of a picture like this with me and the ladies. I could hear ladies coming up that are in other parts of agriculture, and they were saying, "Wow, there's a lot of space." So seriously, we don't even always know our stories of one another. And yes, space is important to animal comfort, and that's kind of why I show this picture, because it really shows how the desired impact of what we do. My husband Steve, yes, we also raised 5 children. In addition to buying this farm from Steve's uncle and expanding the feeding capacity on the farm, we raised 5 children. 4 of them are married, and one of them is in a religious community in Peru. He will be moving to Denver after Christmas, which we're real excited about because he's been gone for about 6 years in Peru. And we currently have 6 grandchildren. They're all there at the bottom. Ella and Harper are 6 and 3. And then Isaiah and his little baby brother Damien, who's about 2 months old. Evelyn is 6-month-old. And then our son Scott, who lives in California, his daughter Zora. And so part of what we do is always about the people on our farm. It's never just been a job. It's been a way of life, which includes feeding cattle. This is an aerial view. We talk about some of the changes that have come about on farms and ranches, and I would say in the last 30 years it's been quite a lot. When we talk about technology, we know how much technology has changed in 30 years. I remember when we had a microwave, like that was really great to have a microwave, and then we had this computer that I think it was a 236 or something, but you could do basic computing, and we were just thrilled. And now that everything's in our phones now, I can FaceTime with my grandkids and things like that. Is amazing. Another big part of this was how we were tilling the soil and the improvements we were making in crop technology. And in this picture on the top, you'll see a holding pond. That was a good change to keep nutrients on our farms. At one point, because we live in hilly terrain, and so if you have nutrients that leave your farm, when you get like a 5 or 6 inch rain, it's pretty hard to hold that water. And so we hold all water, not only that falls on our farm, but to the north of us, we have water that runs into our farm. And so we're also responsible for holding that water too, which it's hard, but it's part of what we do to be responsible. The layout of the pens you can see, they're spread out, and then below the house there is a freshwater pond. That's keeping water from entering the feed yard. And when we first were building all these, Steve had the chance to do his dream and have a fish pond of his very own. And so yes, there are fish in it, There's a dock, and now there's a little cover over it so you can store all his fishing things in it. And it's a whole nother management tool to have a fish pond. And so, but it's a fun piece of it, right? And so you have this wildlife connection and your farm, and it fits together in this really beautiful cycle of the land and the animals and the people. And so the corn around us, you can see growing, is fed the nutrients from that holding pond and the water to help it grow. And because corn is such a great absorber of nutrients, we grow corn on this farm because of that holding pond. That gives us other issues such as pests. Normally we rotate crops. We'll rotate with beans or alfalfa. We'll do things to help minimize pest control. Well, now we are relying on better seed, the smart seeds that have the capability to defend themselves. And oftentimes when people ask me about GMO seeds and why, surely we don't use that. And yeah, it's a smart seed. It's like your phone. It's got these little apps in it that will do this or do that, and it fights for itself. Seriously, we are able to use less chemical because the seeds are smarter themselves and can defend themselves. They're like, the little military guys out there, it's like, just come and attack me, And so it's a good thing that the technology, and those are all tools that help us do a better job of what we're doing. Corn in Nebraska is huge. It allows us to feed something that I'll get into. So when cattle arrive, we've also, thanks to Temple Grandin for starters, getting into the story of how we're working around cattle. It's not like the rawhide days, where you're whistling and whipping and, really getting loud and crazy. Now it's quiet. You study how the animal moves, where you give pressure. It's just like with horses too, the horse whisperer. We try to be little beef whisperers. If I step this way, you'll go that way. If I move to this side, you'll go that way. And so we're doing this all the time, and we're continue to improve how we move and act around our animals so that they stay calmer and quieter. This is as they come off the truck, they wind around a curve, and they'll go into a pen where there's fresh hay right away. For cattle, because of that rumen, when they travel, for us, cattle always travel. They come from one farm and end up at ours before they go on to processing. And so they might come from Tennessee, Virginia, Montana. They might come from Nebraska, Kansas, but they're oftentimes coming from other states. So they've been on a truck for many hours, and they need that scratch in their room. And the veterinarians in this room can explain all that way better than I, but we just know how important it is, and fresh water, and a nice, clean, dry place to lay down. Cattle are really, really simple creatures. They, if you're feeding them, you're taking care of them with that and water, place to lay down, they can socialize with each other. They're really content. And that's our goal, is to have them content, because when they're content, they're eating, they're healthy, they're thriving, they're doing exactly what we want them to do while they're with us. In the middle, this is a key part of animal health on our farm, is a picture of my husband with one of our veterinarians. We're really fortunate that we have a clinic that has many veterinarians in it, and so I could text one right now and ask him a question and he would reply back. That's just how good they are. And so before we even have cattle on the farm, we've already got protocols of what antibiotic fits what situation. Most of the time it's respiratory disease for us. What's the best fit at what weight? And so when we talk about cattle getting closer to market, we're going to utilize antibiotics that have been given to us that have a 4 to 10 day withdrawal, so we can shorten that window of when they need to stay before they're able to go to processing. It's not easy. There's a picture of Steve and I standing there deciding what we're going to do. One of my jobs on our farm is to walk pens. That means you walk through the cattle every morning and you look for anyone that might be sick or lame or just needs further assessment, that they're not thriving. And we bring them up into this squeeze chute and we temp them. We might listen to their lungs. And we look at their manure, because that's a sign too, right, of health. And their eyes and all that. But you've pretty much already seen that out visibly in the pen. But we're trying to decide what's the best avenue for him to get better as quick as possible. Because what we want to do is get them, if they're sick, we want to get them healthy as fast as they can and get them back out to their pen mates. Because ultimately that's where they want to be. We utilize a hospital barn to keep them separate for a while. Ultimately, though, the goal is to get them right back out to their pen and keep going. That's where they like to be. We feed And we just transitioned from handwritten records that my husband's used like for his entire life to a computerized system where we have scales. We've always, been really meticulous about weight and feed delivery, but now everybody is. And when you have employees, it's not that you want to make sure they're doing the right thing, but you want to make sure they're doing the right thing. And so, we have these iPads now that as their feed's falling off, it's actually transmitting into the program. So we know if they got the right amount of corn or the right amount of supplement or the right amount of hay. And then when they deliver it, it's the same way to the pen. So if they overfeed one pen and underfeed another, you just can't do that because you'll get caught, right? The good news for us is that everyone knows that if they make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. We can go and scoop feed. We can do things. And so when you work in an environment where it's built on doing the right thing, and when you mess up, say it right away so we can correct it. Don't try to cover it up. And for the most part, what everyone wants to do when we're producing food is if we make a mistake, or when we do, I should say, because it happens, correct it. Don't try to cover it up and feel like you're a perfect person, because we know we're not. I talked about how corn is king in Nebraska, and so this on the bottom we have just 2 ration samples. One that a calf that might weigh 600 or 700 pounds gets when he starts out on feed, and then when they mature to the point where we want to give them full feed or that all the energy they can get to get that muscle going, they're the one with all the corn in it. The Synergy is an ADM product. It's a modified wet distiller's grain with a little bit of gluten that they mix together. Basically, it's a byproduct of ethanol. When the development of ethanol from corn happened, they had this byproduct that was just sitting in piles. And thanks to research and continuous development of we never waste anything on the farm, it was discovered how well this matched with the rumen of cattle. It's a great protein, digestible fiber, all of the great things nutritionists love to help us do a really great job of feeding. And so for us and everywhere that has ethanol plants, to be able to utilize this product in the ration, which at the end of the day helps them be healthier, because when their rumen's happy and their gut's happy, then that helps us fight disease. These animals do live outside. That's another factor of fighting disease and preventing disease. We're trying to mitigate extremes. In Nebraska, it gets hot and humid, and it gets really cold. When it's hot and humid, we're trying to use things like shade trees. That's been another development, and that's really magnified the last 5 to 10 years. These are pipes that have a big round tire on the bottom, and when they were first made, you had to get a payloader bucket underneath and chain it on to move it. And the first one we got, my husband said to the designer, he said, "Why can't you build a brace around so I can take payloader forks and just slide it underneath it and move it, and I don't have to get out and chain it and get out and unchain it." It's like, that's why you have people to help keep the manufacturer coming up with new ideas. You get that feedback, right? And so whenever people are always sharing feedback of what they're doing and how they're using things, then we come together as a team and we just have such a better product. And this is one of them, that shade tree. In the summer, we're giving them shade, and then we're using less water. We used to use only the sprinklers that you'll see in the one picture when it would be really hot and no wind. Normally, Nebraska has plenty of wind, but some days when they don't, that's when it's tough on them because the air's not moving. And so when you have that cool mist, it cools them down. Now we have both options, and we rarely use water. The shade has enough of a cooling effect that we're able to use the majority of the time the shade trees. And this is kind of a normal look. When cattle are just not eating or playing, they're just laying down, hanging out. So wintertime, yes, we also have that too. The goal is to get snow removal. First is the feed bunk. And when we were talking about terms and how you explain your story to people, I talked to a journalist one time, and he worked for soy, no offense soy, but I was telling him about the feed bunks and how we feed and all that. And when he wrote it up, he wrote in the cattle sleep in feed bunks at night. And I was like, wow, I did not communicate that very well. Like, where did I drop? And pulling cattle, I have learned that removing a steer from the pen to assess him is a better way to say it, because when I say pull cattle, they're picturing us roping him and dragging him out. And so, yeah, it's all those words are so important when you don't live on the farm or even in that segment, the language that we use. Yeah, so snow removal is key, making sure that they have a good place to lay down. There's a slide there with a metal windbreak. We have a lot of trees too that we planted, but we use metal windbreaks when they're up on a hill. And you'd be amazed at how just that windbreak, when you've got 50-mile-an-hour winds and it's snowing, it's just so quiet right there. And they're laying down. And that's what we want. We want cattle to be able to lay down and be comfortable. And at the end of the day, it's really about food. We know that by taking care of animals, we are taking care of people because we're providing food. We believe the value of beef in the diet, the nutrient-dense product that we're offering, besides all the leather and all the offal products that people enjoy. But it's really about helping people thrive. And so when we put together everything that we can do to keep our farm sustainable with the nutrients to the corn, to the cattle, and then this product to feed people, we're taking that amazing animal that can eat roughage anywhere and convert it to protein, and we can spread it out to all these different people from here to China. That group in that one picture is China, and enjoy something and eat together and be together as people. That's our goal, to have a really healthy, nutritious product and continually improve the environment we're living in while we're producing that product.